Hi everyone! Today we're looking at some of the most rare and valuable collectibles you can find. These pieces are unique, limited, and highly prized by collectors. Some can fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars. We'll take a close look at their features, designs, and value to understand why these collectibles are so special and worth paying attention to. First up is the 1937 British threepence coin, a small coin that some collectors say can be worth as much as $1,100 if it's in perfect shape or has something special about it. Most of these coins are not that high in value, but a few rare ones can reach that price when sold to the right collector. It is one of the most talked about coins from the time of King George VI, who became king in 1936. The 1937 threepence coin was part of his first official coin set, so it holds a special place in British coin history. This coin comes from a time when Britain was changing its coin metals. Before 1937, threepence coins were made of silver, but that year, the Royal Mint began making them in a new metal called nickel brass. This change was meant to save silver and make the coins last longer in everyday use. Because of this, both silver and brass versions of the 1937 threepence exist, and that's one reason collectors like this coin. It shows a moment of change in British money. Coins made of the older silver version are usually harder to find, while the brass 12-sided coins became the normal type people used every day. If you look at the design, you'll notice some beautiful details. On the front, called the obverse, is a portrait of King George VI facing left. His name and title are written around the edge, showing his full title as the ruler of the United Kingdom. On the back, called the reverse, you'll see the words threepence and the year 1937. The design often shows a thrift plant, a small flowering plant that was chosen to symbolize thriftiness and growth. The coin also has 12 flat sides, making it easy to tell apart from round coins by touch alone. The 1937 threepence was the first in the new 12-sided shape, and that made it stand out from other coins at the time. People either loved it or thought it looked strange, but now it's seen as an important piece of British design. Collectors really enjoy how it marks the start of a new coin era under King George VI. The brass version feels heavier and looks more yellow than silver, giving it a unique look that many find beautiful when kept in good condition. As for errors or rare varieties, there are a few reasons a coin like this could reach a high value. Sometimes, coins were struck slightly off-center or with small minting mistakes, like double letters or weak impressions. Other times, a coin might have been made with the wrong type of metal or planchet. Any of these small differences can make a coin stand out to collectors. Even the tiniest variation from the normal design can increase the price by hundreds of dollars if it's proven to be a real mint error. The value of a normal 1937 brass threepence is much lower than $1,100. Most of them are only worth between a few pounds and maybe $10 to $30 depending on how worn they are. According to some coin value guides such as altcoinvalues.com, even nice examples don't usually go above £10 or £20 unless they are in mint, uncirculated condition. The silver version can be worth a little more, especially if it's very shiny and has no marks. However, when you see someone listing a 1937 threepence for $1,100, that usually means it's a very rare version, either in perfect mint state or with a known error. Collectors pay more for coins that look almost new, with sharp details and no scratches. These are often graded by professional services that rate coins from poor to mint state. A coin graded at the highest level might only have a few examples left, which is why the price jumps so much. A 1937 threepence graded as MS65 or higher could be one of those that reaches that $1,100 price mark. Another reason people pay so much is historical importance. The 1937 coin came right after the abdication crisis of 1936, when King Edward VIII stepped down, and his brother George VI became king. That sudden change meant new coins had to be designed and made quickly for the new ruler. For coin collectors, that story adds extra interest, since it marks a big moment in British royal history. Even though most 1937 threepence coins are common, they still remind people of that unique time when Britain changed both its king and its coinage. Finding one in perfect condition is rare today, especially because many were used for years and became scratched or darkened. So if you ever find a bright, sharp 1937 threepence in your collection or an old family box, it's worth checking carefully. It might just be one of those rare ones that brings in more than $1,000 to the right buyer. Next up is the 1942 British threepence coin, which some people say can be worth as much as $800 if it is in perfect condition or has a rare minting error. Most of these coins are not worth that much, but special ones can reach a high price in collector markets. This coin comes from the time of World War II, when Britain was facing one of the hardest times in its history. Because of the war, the materials used for making coins were affected, and that makes the 1942 threepence coin quite interesting to collectors today. The history of this coin is linked with King George VI, who was still on the throne in 1942. Britain was fighting in the war, and metals like silver were needed for weapons and military supplies. Because of this, the Royal Mint continued to use nickel brass for most coins instead of silver, as it was cheaper and more available. This metal is what gives the coin its golden yellow look. It was tough and practical, which made it perfect for the time. Still, a few silver threepence coins were made that year for use in some of Britain's colonies overseas, and those are much harder to find today. The design of the 1942 threepence is simple but very British. On the front side, you can see King George VI facing left, with his full title written around the edge. This portrait shows the king wearing no crown, giving it a clean and proud look. On the back side, you'll find the words threepence and the year 1942 written along the edge. In the center, there's a picture of the thrift plant, a small flowering plant that was chosen as a symbol of saving and strength during tough times. The coin has 12 flat sides, which makes it stand out from round coins and easy to recognize even by touch. What makes the 1942 threepence special is the story behind it. During the war, Britain had to find new ways to save resources. Coins like this one show how even small everyday things were affected by global events. Millions of these coins were made, over 100 million, in fact, so most are not rare. However, there are a few reasons some of them can still sell for hundreds of dollars. Some coins were made with small minting errors. These errors could be things like the design being slightly off-center, letters being doubled, or even coins being struck on the wrong kind of metal blank. These mistakes were rare but possible, especially during the war years when the Royal Mint was producing coins very quickly. Any coin with a confirmed mint error can be worth much more than normal, and that's how a few of the 1942 threepence coins end up with values close to $800. The value of a normal 1942 threepence coin is usually much lower. According to some coin value guides such as altcoinvalues.com, most of the brass versions are worth between £1 and £15 depending on how worn they are. If the coin is shiny, with no scratches, it might go for a bit more, especially to collectors who want nice examples for their sets. The silver version made for overseas territories can be worth more, sometimes up to £30 or more if it's in very fine or uncirculated condition. But even then, these prices are still far below $800 unless the coin has something rare about it. Condition plays a huge role in how much a 1942 threepence can sell for. A coin that has been used in everyday trade will show wear and lose its shine. But if a coin has never been used, called uncirculated, and is stored safely without marks or stains, it can be worth several times more. Professional coin grading companies can give such coins official grades like MS65 or MS67, and those high grades can raise their price dramatically. Collectors also value the historical meaning of this coin. It's a small reminder of how life continued during wartime, even with limited materials. People still needed change for everyday items, and this coin represents that part of history. Some collectors enjoy owning coins from every year of the war to tell that story through their collections. So, while the 1942 British threepence might seem like a small coin, it carries a big piece of history. Whether brass or silver, worn or shiny, each one has its own story. The ones that reach the $800 mark are the rarest and best kept examples, often with special features or mint errors that make them stand out from the rest. If you ever come across one of these coins, it's always worth checking carefully. You never know if you might be holding a tiny piece of history that's worth far more than just 3 pence. The last coin on our list is the 1943 British 3 pence coin, which some collectors say can be worth up to $1,350 if it is in perfect mint condition or has a rare minting error. Even though most 1943 threepence coins are common, a few very special ones can reach this kind of high value. This coin comes from the same wartime period as the 1942 version, and it carries that same mix of history, design, and scarcity that makes it stand out to collectors all over the world. The 1943 threepence was made during the rule of King George VI, who was still leading Britain through the Second World War. By this time, the country was deep in the middle of the conflict, and resources were stretched thin. Metals like silver were being used for weapons, machinery, and other military needs, so coins continued to be made from nickel brass, just like in the year before. This metal was strong, cheaper than silver, and gave the coin a bright golden color that was easy to spot among other coins. When we look at the design, it's almost the same as the earlier brass coins. On the front side, or obverse, is the familiar portrait of King George VI facing left, with his royal title around the edge. On the back, or reverse, are the words "Threepence" and the date 1943 written clearly, surrounding the picture of the thrift plant. The 12-sided shape makes the coin easy to identify by touch, something people liked because it was simple to tell apart from other round coins in your pocket. This shape also gave the coin a unique look that stood out in British coin design. The story behind this coin is one of both everyday use and quiet importance. Britain was still fighting in the war, and millions of these coins were made for daily transactions. People used them to buy newspapers, milk, or small snacks. Even though over 100 million 1943 brass threepence coins were produced, they have still managed to capture the attention of collectors today because of the history tied to them. Each coin is a reminder of a time when even small things like coins had to adapt to the world's challenges. Now, while most 1943 threepence coins are very common and worth just a few pounds, some special examples have reached much higher prices. A coin could be worth up to $1,350 if it has something unusual about it. For example, there are minting errors that make a coin rare. Maybe it was struck off-center, has a doubled design, or even used the wrong type of metal blank. These are mistakes made at the mint, but for collectors, they are exciting finds. The rarer the error and the better the condition, the higher the value can go. The condition of the coin also plays a big part in its price. A coin that has been used and shows wear might only be worth a few dollars. But one that was never used and still shines like the day it was made can be worth a lot more. Coin experts call this kind of condition uncirculated, and such coins often get a high grade from professional coin grading companies. A 1943 threepence with a top grade, like MS-65 or higher, could easily attract big offers from serious collectors, especially if it has perfect details and no marks. According to some online coin value guides such as altcoinvalues.com, an ordinary brass 1943 threepence might sell for between £1 and £10 depending on its condition. Silver versions that were made for overseas territories could be worth a bit more, maybe up to £40 if they're very fine or uncirculated. But those high values like $1,350 are for the best of the best. The rarest examples, perfect condition coins, or coins with real mint errors verified by experts. Collectors love the 1943 threepence because it's more than just a small coin. It's a piece of history from a time when every resource mattered and every coin told a story. It shows how the country adapted under pressure, and how something so simple can hold great meaning. If you ever find one in an old collection or coin jar, look closely. You might just be holding one of those rare treasures that could be worth far more than its face value of 3 pence, maybe even close to $1,350 to the right collector. So there you have it, 3 fascinating British threepence coins, 1937 at $1,100, 1942 at $800, and 1943 at $1,350, each with its own story, design and rarity. If you have one of these tucked away, it's worth taking a closer look. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe for more coin history and rare finds, and drop a comment if you'd like us to cover more rare British coins in the next episode. Thanks for watching and see you next time.